Beautiful combinational game by Mikhail Tal. Sacrifices begin right from the opening and continue until the very end, making it instructive for players of all levels. e4, e5. Tal develops the king's knight. Knight c6, bishop c4. Grandmaster Miller is playing with the black pieces. Knight f6, two knights defense by black. A standard move knight g5, the fried liver attack, is not very effective here, due to many defensive resources for black. Tal is playing in his active combinational style. d4, advancing the central pawn and opening the diagonal for the dark squared bishop. Black need to know the precise moves here. d6, defending e5 pawn. It was also possible to take on d4 on the previous move, for example, like this. Then knight takes d4, and if black take on e4, then the bishop sacrifice on f7 is very good. And if black takes the bishop, then queen h5, and if g6 here, then queen d5. King g7 and knight c6, winning back a knight on e4, with approximately even position. Therefore, in the game d6 was played, Tal takes the pawn on e5, and in this position black made a mistake. Knight takes e4. You cannot take this central pawn without consequences. Tal responds with a powerful tactical blow. Bishop takes f7. The knight on e4 is a perfect target for a double attack queen d5. Obviously you must take the bishop. Queen d5 and bishop e6, defending against an unpleasant check. Knight g5 could be a threat at some point, but for now it's not possible because of the knight on e5 who guards the g5 square. Therefore, queen takes on e4, bishop e7 to make a manual castling. Rook f8 and king g8. Tal castles, d5 and queen d3. Mikhail Tal is losing advantage a little bit here. It was possible to play queen f4 check, king g8 and knight c3, keeping the advantage. But who are we to judge Mikhail Tal for his choice of moves? After queen d3, black defend their bishop to be able to go king g8 in case of knight g5. For now, the check on g5 is not good because the pawn on e5 is vulnerable. Therefore, Mikhail Tal defends the pawn with rook e1, rook a f8. It could be better to play rook h f8 to finally move the king to safety next move. In this game, the combination's only about to start. I will say in advance that black are going to experience a catastrophe and destruction. Rook a f8, knight c3 and king e8. Tal's opponent is about to make a manual castling here to the queen side. As we remember from chess theory, different side castling leads to a very sharp game. Knight g5. Finally, the knight comes to make history. Bishop c5, looking at f2 to win an exchange. Knight e6. Mikhail Tal decided to sacrifice his rook on e1. Bishop f2. Black are falling for this. King h1 and bishop e1. It's possible to play knight takes e5 here. If black takes the knight on e6, then there is a fork on c7 winning the queen. But in the game after bishop e1, Mikhail Tal took the rook on f8, which is a mistake according to the computer. Rook arrived on f8 and bishop g5. One more inaccuracy. But we are not gonna pay much attention to the computer evaluation here, because the computer just doesn't understand the moves of Mikhail Tal. Knight jumps on b4, queen e2 and knight c2. Taking the knight is bad, of course, because of rook f1 checkmate. Therefore, Mikhail Tal sacrifices another rook. e6 advances the pawn. By the way, look at the evaluation. The position is much worse for white here, -2. In this position, Miller plays queen d6, which allows Mikhail to find the best continuation here and a beautiful sacrifice. It was much better to retreat on c6, for example, keeping the advantage, than just rook e1, knight e1, queen e1 and d4. It was necessary to play knight d1, and there was a beautiful queen sacrifice for black, queen e4. If you take it, then rook f1 checkmate. But Tal's opponent didn't see that. He played queen d6, and it allowed Mikhail to find the best beautiful continuation. Knight b5, the knight attacks the queen and the pawn. If you allow knight c7, there will be a checkmate. Black offer a queen sacrifice. If you take the queen, then you are just getting checkmated. Mikhail Tal is not interested in such offers. The best move in this position, you can pause the video here and look for the best continuation. A little hint, it's a sacrifice. Mikhail Tal plays h4, giving up his queen. Now if you take it, then by the way, you can subscribe to the channel if you find my reviews interesting. Knight c7 and you're getting checkmated. And if you don't take the queen, the same way as it happened in the game, queen g3 threatening rook f2 and queen g2 checkmate. Then rook d1. Mikhail Tal sticks to his plan to checkmate his opponent. Of course, black need to play rook f2 and then threaten checkmate. But Mikhail Tal is not afraid of this. He sacrifices the queen again. Queen takes f2, bishop takes f2. Why not queen f2? Because of knight c7 with checkmate in a couple of moves. For example, if queen g3, knight c7, e7, king g8, e8, queen promotion, queen f8, and queen e6. White have a material advantage. Therefore, queen takes f2, black made the right decision and took with the bishop. Then rook d5, and there is a threat of checkmate on d8. The only move which saves black from the checkmate is to give up the queen for a pawn. Queen takes h4, bishop h4, knight c7, king f8. The king is running. We are giving check to the black king. They are covering with the bishop, and to win this game is already a matter of technique, and as we know, the technique of Mikhail Tal had never failed him. Knight b4. If you know some games where technique failed Mikhail Tal, then write in the comments and we will look into it. Rook f7, king g8, and just rook takes the bishop on f6. Taking the rook is bad because of e7 and e8 promotion. Black decide to come closer with the knight, but playing down a rook has no sense. g6 and pawn e7. You have to give up the knight, then rook e7 and continue playing with only 4 pawns is just hopeless.